Today is 11th of September, and I welcome you all on today's edition of What to Read in the Hindu newspaper. While going through the articles, we will not only see its relevance with regard to prelims and mains, but we will also try interlinking it with other GS papers as well. So let's get started. The very first article that catches our attention in today's paper talks about Delhi government to microchip 10 lakh stray dogs for rabies control. Now, this particular article is relevant under the theme GS2, wherein governance, government policies, and interventions can be quoted. Also, GS paper 3, wherein health, biotech applications, and animal welfare can be quoted. The key theme that has been discussed in this particular article, it talks about public health, in particular rabies control mechanism, and usage of technology with regard to microchipping the street dogs could be a potent examples that can be replicated in other part of countries as well. Also, urban governance can also be linked while going through this particular article as an example for essay also. For prelims perspective, the areas that we have to keep in mind while going through this particular article talks about what are the basics of rabies, what is the causative agent, then how it could be prevented. Is there any WHO observance like World Rabies Day and all? Whether rabies is curable or not, with regard to it, also UNDP initiatives that has been undertaken in India to control rabies could also be quoted. Then, what is the role of municipal corporation with regard to street animals? Afterwards, other organization in the form of NGOs such as Animal PETA, Animal Welfare Board, etc., their functions with regard to it. For mains perspective, the same article is to be seen through the lens of issues relating to public health and governance and challenges in urban areas. GS paper 3, the same article can be seen through the lens of biotech in everyday governance, its applications, animal population management, zoonotic diseases. So, in this manner, this particular article is to be holistically seen. Now, the next important article that is worth to read in today's Hindu newspaper talks about constitute Indo-Bhutan River Commission with West Bengal as a member, Mamta says to center. Now, this is relevant for GS paper 2, India and its neighborhood relations, federalism as well, because state and center are cooperating in this particular manner while negotiating with IR as well. GS paper 1, wherein the geography of rivers and its tributaries can be quoted, flood management could be quoted. The key theme that has been discussed in this particular article primarily talks about trans-boundary rivers management, flood control, and the role of center and state in resolving it. For prelims perspective, the same article, the angles that can be explored is rivers from Bhutan that are transboundary in nature, such as Sankosh, Tista. Afterwards, institutions such as Damodar Valley Corporation. For mains perspective, the same article is to be seen through the lens of what is the need of cooperative federalism in water management, impact of flood in society and geography, as we are seeing rampantly in northern India. For instance, Himachal is reeling under floods. Currently, Punjab is reeling under floods. Bihar and Assam is reeling under floods. Disaster management and flood control mechanisms that can be applied here in international cooperation as well. So, in this manner, this particular article is to be holistically seen. Moving on, the next important article that is relevant to read from today's paper is on editorials page, and that primarily talks about the way forward in Kachatevu Pulk Strait disputes. Now, this is relevant with regard to GS paper 2, international relations, wherein India-Sri Lanka relations could be explored multi-dimensionally. There has been several treaties, neighborhood first policy with regard to Sri Lanka, and also the rising China's influence in Sri Lanka can be explored. It is relevant for GS paper 3 as well, wherein environment, maritime ecology, bottom trawling, and sustainability with regard to fishing as a blue economy concept can be explored. The theme that has been discussed in this particular article primarily focuses on balancing livelihoods with marine ecosystem in the Palk Strait. From prelims perspective, the geographical locations that is important while from mapping arena is Palk Strait, Kachativu Island, then international treaties that talks in marine domain in particular, such as UN clause, FAO code of conduct for responsible fisheries that can be read and revised. From male's perspective, the same article is to be seen through the lens of diplomacy, neighborhood first policy, federal aspect with regard to Tamil Nadu's role in it. From GS paper 3 perspective, marine ecology, destructive fishing practices, and sustainable development can be quoted and interlinked with. In this manner, this particular article is to be seen. I have even underlined the important aspects of this particular article, the Supreme Court's judgment, and also which all areas has to be read and revised while going through it. The next important article that is there in the paper and that needs our attention talks about a joint and a new journey along the SCO pathways. Now, this is relevant for GS paper 2 under international organizations and multilateral organizations. Afterwards, India-China relationships can also be interlinked. For GS paper 1 also this is relevant. Post-Cold War world and regional cooperation that is rising to counter West. Other areas that can be explored with regard to prelims perspective, SCO structure and the recent additions of members in this. Afterwards, its structure and the main member countries, observer status, the initiatives that has been taken by SCO in particular to counter terrorism, and what are the main focus points that it deals with. Is there any development bank or not? Security centers or not? From Main's perspective, the same article can be seen through the lens of India's role in multilateral grouping, balancing rivalry and cooperation with China at times. Under GS paper 2 IR, the main section that can be explored with regard to it, global governance initiatives brings an SCO synergy. Also, the global south angle that can even be quoted in this particular article. Hence, this is an important article from today's paper. So this is to be explored multidimensionally. The next important article that is important to go through while reading this edition of paper talks about to build road is to build peace. Now, this is very much relevant for GS paper 3 under the theme internal security, Naxalism, infrastructure and governance. Also relevant for GS paper 1, wherein society and tribal issues can be linked and explored. The key theme that has been discussed in this particular article is infrastructure could be a way forward as governance and to weaken insurgency and Naxalism in Naxal affected areas. From prelims perspective, the areas that we have to know is about left wing extremism state affected, red corridor, what it is, then Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, how it is influencing the connectivity and how it is even reducing the left wing extremism areas altogether. NCRB data with regard to decreasing the impact of Naxal affected areas altogether. From Main's perspective, the same article is to be seen through the lens of internal security challenges and governance vacuum that is there in tribal hinterland. Then issues faced by tribal communities, legitimacy of informal institutions in tribal affected areas in the form of they have a parallel judiciary working from them, parallel healthcare infrastructure that is there. So all these things are to be explored while going through this particular area. Moving on, the last important article for the day is on science page, and that talks about rampant development, not climate change, pushing Himalayas to edge. Now, this is relevant for GS paper 1 geography, wherein knowing Indian Himalayas, what sort of mountain it is, what sort of rivers coming out from there, disaster, uh, the frequency is increasing nowadays. This is also relevant from GS paper 3 under the theme environment, ecological sustainability, disaster management, and climate change can be put. The key theme that has been tried to express in this article talks about climate change and unregulated development is leading to Himalayas distress. In short, this has been the key theme. Afterwards, from prelims perspective, the arenas that we have to explore while going through this particular article could be knowing the basics of what is cloudburst, what are GLOFs, that is glacial lake outburst flood, Himalayan rivers and its tributaries, hydropower project with regard to the hilly regions. Afterwards, the infrastructure road development project that is there. From mains perspective, the same article is to be seen through the lens of GS1, wherein natural disaster and their impact on human settlements, how they are interlinked and what are the possible reasons for it. The GS3 paper, wherein disaster management risk reduction, in specific, how EIA, when implemented in letter and spirit, could help us reduce these disasters. Sustainable mountain developmental agenda, or the report that is need of the hour right now. In this manner, this particular article is to be seen thoroughly. This is all from my end from today's Hindu newspaper. Till we meet for the next time, take care, keep learning.